Lawsuits, body shaming, Parkinson's jokes, a young actress who became a recluse, and a baby cartoon character screaming about escaping from Kevin Spacey's basement 12 years before anyone else said a word about it. Family Guy has been on the air for over 25 years now, and in that time it has mocked, roasted, parodied, and in some cases genuinely damaged hundreds of real living human beings. Not fictional characters, real people, with real careers, real families, and real feelings. And nobody stopped them. Not Fox, not the FCC, not the courts, not even the celebrities themselves. Some of them laughed along, some of them fought back, some of them sued and lost. One actress developed body dysmorphia so severe that she stopped going outside for years because of a throwaway cartoon character that the internet turned into a viral meme about her body. Another had his Parkinson's disease turned into a punchline that kept showing up season after season with no sign of slowing down. And the show's own creator once stood on the Oscar stage in 2013 and made a joke about Harvey Weinstein that turned out to be a warning the entire world ignored for 4 more years. How did one animated sitcom get permission from the law, from the industry, from the culture, and from us, the audience, to systematically take aim at the most famous people on the planet and fire without real consequences for over 2 decades? That is the question we're going to answer tonight, and it starts with understanding how the show's comedy engine was designed from the very beginning to turn real human beings into 10-second punchlines. To understand how Family Guy became the single most effective celebrity destruction machine in television history, you first need to understand the man who built it and the comedy format he created. Because the show was not always like this. It was not always this mean, this relentless, or this willing to go after real people with the kind of ferocity that would make a tabloid editor blush. But the seeds were there from the very start. They were baked into the structure of the show itself in a way that made everything that came later almost inevitable. Family Guy was created by Seth MacFarlane. Before the show ever existed, MacFarlane was a young animator who had studied at the Rhode Island School of Design. While he was still in school, and shortly after graduating, he worked on cartoon shows at Hanna-Barbera, shows like Johnny Bravo, O'Toole, Cow and Chicken, and Dexter's Laboratory. During that time, he made 2 short animated films called The Life of Larry and Steve. These shorts featured a middle-aged guy named Larry and his hyper-intelligent dog named Steve. And if you watch them today, you can immediately see that these 2 characters would later become Peter and Brian Griffin. MacFarlane took those characters, built a family around them, changed the names, and pitched a 15-minute pilot to Fox back in May of 1998. Fox liked what they saw. They gave him the green light, and Family Guy was born. The show premiered on January 31st, 1999, right after Super Bowl 33. That is one of the best time slots you can get on television, because millions of people are already watching, and it worked. That first episode pulled in around 22 million viewers, which was a massive number for a brand new animated series. The show was set in a fictional town called Quahog, Rhode Island, and it followed the Griffin family. Peter, the overweight, not very bright father, Lois, his wife, who tried to keep things together, their daughter Meg, their son Chris, the baby Stewie, who was secretly a genius with plans for world domination, and Brian, the family dog who could talk and drink martinis and was honestly the smartest one in the household. Now, the thing that matters for our story tonight is not the family dynamics, it is not the character development or the story arcs. What matters for us is the comedy format that MacFarlane chose to build the show around. Because that format is the reason Family Guy became such a devastating weapon against celebrities. The format is the cutaway gag. If you've ever seen even a single episode of Family Guy, you know exactly what this is. A character says something like, "This is worse than the time I," or This reminds me of when, and then the screen cuts away to a completely different scene. Some random, usually ridiculous situation plays out for a few seconds, sometimes longer, and then it cuts right back to the main story as if nothing happened. That is a cutaway. It is the thing Family Guy is most famous for. It defined the show from its very first episode, Death Has a Shadow, which aired that night after the Super Bowl in January of 1999. Now, cutaway gags existed before Family Guy. Other shows had used similar techniques, but what MacFarlane did was different. He made the cutaway gag the central operating system of the show. Not a tool, not a technique, the engine. And here is why that matters so much for our topic tonight. A cutaway gag is, by design, a self-contained little sketch that has nothing to do with the actual plot of the episode. It exists in its own pocket universe. A character says a setup line. The show jumps to this disconnected little world, delivers a joke, and then jumps back. The plot does not stop for the cutaway. The cutaway does not affect the characters. Nothing that happens inside a cutaway has any consequences in the main story. Think about what that means for celebrity mockery. In a show like The Simpsons, if they wanted to make fun of a real celebrity, they usually had to work that person into the actual plot. They had to build a story around the celebrity, give them a reason to be in Springfield, create scenes and dialogue and interactions with the main characters. That takes effort. That requires thought, and it limits how many celebrities you can target in a single episode, because there are only so many minutes to work with. Family Guy does not have that limitation. Because of the cutaway format, the writers can reference literally any celebrity at any time, for any reason, with zero setup and zero consequences. All they need is a character to say a setup line. Something as simple as Peter saying, "This is worse than that time I had lunch with," and then they can cut to a 10-second sketch involving literally anyone on the planet. Tom Cruise, Michael J. Fox, O.J. Simpson, the Pope. It does not matter. The cutaway is a delivery system, and it can deliver a payload to any target with no warning and no build-up. One setup line, 10 seconds of mockery, and then back to the main story as if nothing happened. The celebrity gets roasted. The episode moves on, and nobody in the fictional world of Quahog even acknowledges that it happened. This is not a minor structural detail. This is the fundamental reason why Family Guy was able to mock more real people, more frequently and more aggressively than any other show in the history of television. The cutaway gag is a celebrity destruction engine. It was designed to deliver rapid-fire jokes, and real people just happened to be the best ammunition. In the early seasons 1 through 3, the celebrity references were relatively mild. They were there, absolutely. Pop culture was part of the show's DNA from the very beginning. But the tone was different. The early cutaways were shorter, they were sharper, and they were more playful than cruel. A cutaway might reference a celebrity in an absurd situation, but the point of the joke was usually the absurdity itself, not the destruction of the person being referenced. The humour came from the unexpected juxtaposition, not from tearing someone apart. Then the show got cancelled. Fox pulled it off the air after 3 seasons in 2002, not because of quality issues, but because of scheduling disasters. Fox kept moving the show to different nights, different time slots, and the audience could never find it. The ratings dropped. The show was done. Or so everyone thought. What happened next changed everything. Cartoon Network bought the rerun rights to Family Guy for their Adult Swim block for almost nothing, because nobody thought the show was worth much anymore. The reruns premiered on Adult Swim on April 20th, 2003, and almost overnight, Family Guy became the highest rated show on the entire block. It dominated late-night television. It boosted Adult Swim's viewership by 239%. At the same time, the DVD sets for seasons 1 and 2 came out, and sold over 400,000 copies. A cult following was growing. It was growing fast, and by 2004, Fox made the decision to bring the show back. New episodes were ordered for a fourth season that would air in 2005. That same year, 2005, something else happened that would change the trajectory of Family Guy forever, and that would supercharge the show's ability to destroy celebrities in the public consciousness. YouTube launched. The timing could not have been more perfect. Family Guy returned to television in the exact same moment that the internet learned how to share video clips. And what kind of clips did people share? Short, self-contained, funny bits that could be ripped from a longer show and posted on their own. In other words, cutaway gags. Those 10-second sketches that had nothing to do with the actual plot of the episode turned out to be the perfect content for the early internet. You did not need to watch the whole episode. You did not need any context. You just needed to see Peter Griffin do something ridiculous to, or with, a real celebrity for a few seconds, and you had a clip that could be shared, embedded, and viewed millions of times. This created a feedback loop that the writers noticed immediately. The cutaways that went viral were almost always the ones involving real celebrities. The more outrageous the celebrity gag, the more it got shared. The more it got shared, the more attention the show got. The more attention the show got, the more the writers leaned into celebrity mockery. It was a cycle that fed on itself, and every season, the celebrity destruction got louder, meaner, and more frequent because the internet was rewarding them for it. Before the YouTube era, a celebrity gag in a Family Guy episode would air once, maybe get rerun a few times on Adult Swim, and then fade into the background. After YouTube, a celebrity gag had the potential to live forever. A 10-second clip of Peter Griffin making a joke about Tom Cruise could get 50 million views and circulate for years. The joke would outlive the episode. It would outlive the season. In some cases, it would outlive the relevance of the celebrity being mocked. Family Guy was creating permanent, searchable, shareable content that would follow these people around the internet indefinitely. And they were doing it dozens of times per episode, across dozens of episodes per season, across 25 seasons and counting. The math is staggering when you actually sit down and think about it. If you assume an average of just 10 celebrity references per episode, and an average of around 20 episodes per season, and 24 seasons of the show through 2024, that is somewhere in the range of 4,800 individual celebrity gags. Nearly 5,000 times the show pointed its camera at a real human being and used them as a punchline. Some of those people asked for it. Some of them had no idea it was coming. And some of them are still dealing with the consequences years or even decades later. But the cutaway format alone does not explain the full picture, because there is a second element to how the show operates that makes the celebrity destruction even more effective, and that is the sheer speed at which Family Guy can react to real-world events. Animated shows traditionally have very long production timelines. An episode of a major animated series can take anywhere from 6 months to a year to produce from script to screen. This means that by the time an episode airs, the cultural references in it are already months old. But Family Guy found ways to shorten that timeline for certain elements. The cutaway gags, because they are self-contained and disconnected from the main plot, could sometimes be swapped in or adjusted relatively late in the production process. If a celebrity got into a scandal on a Tuesday, the writers could potentially work a reference into an upcoming episode faster than you might expect. They could not do it overnight, but they were faster than most animated shows at incorporating current events. This speed, combined with the cutaway format, meant that Family Guy could function almost like an animated tabloid magazine. Something happens in the real world, the writers grab it, turn it into a 10-second cutaway, and a few months later, it shows up on screen in front of millions of viewers. The celebrity is mocked not in a print article that gets thrown away, not in a late-night monologue, that airs once and disappears, but in an animated clip that will exist on the internet forever. And here is the thing that really sets Family Guy apart from every other show that has ever mocked celebrities. The show has no loyalty, it has no allegiances. It does not care if you are liberal or conservative, young or old, beloved or hated. It does not care if you're a sitting president or a washed-up reality star. It does not care if you're dealing with a personal tragedy or celebrating your greatest achievement. If you are famous, you are a target, period. The show operates with a kind of equal opportunity cruelty that is almost impressive in its commitment. Nobody is safe, nobody is off limits, and nobody gets to decide whether or not they are included. This is fundamentally different from how other shows handle celebrity parody. The Simpsons tends to bring celebrities in as guest stars who are mostly treated with affection. South Park goes after specific targets with focused, sustained attacks, but usually ties those attacks to a larger social commentary. Late-night talk shows make fun of celebrities, but within the unspoken rules of the entertainment industry, where certain people are off limits and certain topics are too sensitive to touch. Family Guy respects none of those rules. The cutaway gag gives it the ability to hit anyone. The internet gives those hits permanent visibility, and the show's fundamental attitude towards celebrity culture is that everyone is fair game no matter what. When you put all of these pieces together, the creation story, the cutaway format, the cancellation and revival, the YouTube revolution, the speed of production, and the equal opportunity cruelty, you start to understand how Family Guy became what it became. It was not just a cartoon that happened to make fun of celebrities. It was a machine that was purpose-built, whether intentionally or not, to produce celebrity mockery at industrial scale and distribute it globally through the internet. The show's most famous comedy tool, the cutaway gag, was also its most effective weapon. And for over 25 years, that weapon has been pointed at every famous face that the writers could think of. But the show did not just mock celebrities from a distance. Some of the biggest names in Hollywood, in music, in politics, and in sports actually walked into the recording booth, sat down behind the microphone, and let Family Guy tear them apart with their full cooperation and consent. And what happened with those willing participants tells you a lot about the strange relationship between celebrities and the show that was designed to destroy them. There is something fascinating about a famous person agreeing to be humiliated on national television by a cartoon. Think about it for a second. You have spent your entire career building a public image. You have handlers, publicists, agents, lawyers, all working around the clock to make sure you are presented to the world in the best possible light. And then you get a call from the producers of Family Guy asking if you would like to come in and voice a version of yourself that is going to be mocked, degraded, or made the butt of a joke in front of millions of people. And you say yes. Why? Why would anyone do that? The answer, it turns out, depends entirely on who you are, where you are in your career, and what you think you have to gain from letting a cartoon punch you in the face. The greatest example of a celebrity who benefited from Family Guy's mockery is the late Adam West. And his story is honestly one of the most heartwarming things in the entire history of the show. Adam West, for those who might not know, was the actor who played Batman in the 1960s live-action television series. That version of Batman was campy, colourful, and completely ridiculous in the best possible way. But by the time Family Guy came around in the early 2000s, West's career had largely dried up. He was known almost exclusively as that guy who used to be Batman, and the entertainment industry had moved on without him. Then Family Guy came calling. The show cast Adam West as the mayor of Quahog. Not a parody of Adam West, not a winking reference to Adam West. The actual Adam West, playing a fictional version of himself who happened to be the mayor of this small Rhode Island town. And the version of himself that West agreed to play was, to put it gently, completely insane. Mayor Adam West on Family Guy was delusional, unpredictable, obsessive, and prone to making bizarre decisions that had nothing to do with actual governance. He married his own hand at one point. He tried to fight a fictional cat burglar. He made decisions that no real human being would ever make, let alone a public official, and Adam West loved every second of it. He had absolutely no limits when it came to what he was willing to say or do on the show. The writers could pitch him literally anything, and West would deliver it with the same deadpan commitment that had made his Batman so memorable decades earlier. He was not embarrassed by the portrayal. He was not defensive about it. He leaned into it completely, and the result was one of the most beloved recurring characters in the entire series. Mayor Adam West became a fan favourite, and the role revitalised West's career in a way that nothing else could have at that point in his life. He went from being a forgotten television relic to being a beloved figure for an entirely new generation of viewers who had never seen a single episode of the 1960s Batman. When Adam West passed away in June of 2017, the show honoured him by retiring the character entirely. They did not recast the role. They did not write him out with a joke. They retired him with genuine respect and affection. And later, when the show needed to rename James Woods Regional High School, they chose to rename it Adam West High, a tribute that felt earned and sincere. Adam West walked into Family Guy as a career afterthought and walked out as a genuine legacy. The show gave him something that no amount of Batman nostalgia ever could. It gave him relevance. James Woods had a very different experience, though it started in a similar place. The actor, known for films like Casino and Salvador, first appeared on the show in Season 4's episode, Peter's Got Woods. The show named the local high school James Woods Regional High School, which apparently delighted the real Woods, enough that he reached out about appearing on the show. And appear he did, multiple times. But unlike Adam West, who played a lovable lunatic, James Woods played himself as an insanely jealous, petty, neurotic person. His character would steal Peter's identity, ruin Brian's television pilot, and even go so far as to transfuse the life force of a 17-year-old girl to bring himself back from the dead. It was completely over the top, and for years Woods was a great sport about it. He reportedly did not even demand compensation for his appearances. He told interviewers in 2015 that he genuinely enjoyed making fun of himself and that the show was a blast to work on. But then things changed. Woods became increasingly vocal about his conservative political views on social media. And Family Guy, a show created by one of Hollywood's most publicly liberal figures, did not align with where Woods was heading politically. By 2018, Woods tweeted that he had turned down a Family Guy episode because of what he described as the show's anti-conservative nature. He has not voiced himself on the show since 2016, and the school that once bore his name was quietly renamed Adam West High after West's passing. The relationship between James Woods and Family Guy is a perfect microcosm of what happens when a willing participant stops being willing. The show moves on, the door closes, and the character who was once a recurring highlight becomes a memory. Ryan Reynolds is another celebrity who played along with the show's brand of mockery, and he did it with the kind of effortless charm that has basically become his entire public persona. In the episode Follow the Money, Reynolds shows up in Rhode Island to film a movie where he is playing Hitler with a great body. Already a ridiculous premise. But then he takes an interest in Peter and moves into Cleveland's empty house across the street. What follows is a string of suggestive, flirtatious interactions between Reynolds and Peter that play on Reynolds' reputation as one of the most charming people in Hollywood. He mentions Peter's low-hanging pants. He initiates a tickle fight. He begs Peter to avoid his ticklish lower abdomen. The whole thing is absurd and funny, and Reynolds plays every single beat with total commitment. He did not try to control the joke. He He did not ask for approval over how he was portrayed. He just showed up and was funny, which is exactly why audiences love him. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson took a similar approach when he appeared in the episode Big Man on Hippocampus. In the episode, Johnson simulates intercourse between Peter and Lois by smashing two dolls together. This is not a subtle cameo. This is one of the biggest movie stars on the planet, agreeing to do something completely ridiculous for the sake of a cartoon gag. And Johnson, like Reynolds, seemed to understand that being a good sport about it was part of the deal. You do not say no to Family Guy and come out looking cool. You say yes, you commit, and you let the audience see that you can laugh at yourself. This principle, that being mocked by Family Guy is actually a compliment, became a genuine part of Hollywood culture during the show's peak years. There was an unspoken understanding among celebrities that if Family Guy came calling, the smart move was to play along. Saying no made you look uptight, saying yes made you look cool, and saying yes with enthusiasm made you look legendary. The show had somehow convinced the entertainment industry that being the target of its jokes was an honour rather than an insult. Marlee Matlin is one of the most interesting examples of this dynamic. The Academy Award-winning actress, who is deaf, was parodied multiple times on the show. The jokes were often specifically about her inability to hear. In one episode, she walks past Stewie and passes gas without noticing because she cannot hear herself. In another, she struggles to book movie tickets over the phone. These are jokes that, in most other contexts, would be considered deeply offensive. Making fun of someone for being deaf is not exactly the height of sophisticated comedy. But Matlin handled it with extraordinary grace. Her agent actually reached out to the show's producers, not to threaten legal action, but to ask why they had not cast the real Matlin to voice herself. Alex Borstein, who voices Lois on the show, had been doing an impression of Matlin instead of having Matlin do it herself. This led to a memorable moment on Seth and Alex's almost live comedy show, where Borstein and Matlin confronted each other on stage. Matlin jokingly criticised Borstein's impression and taught her some suggestive sign language. The audience loved it. Behind the scenes, Matlin publicly defended the show's right to parody her. She said, and this is a direct sentiment she expressed, that the day we censor humour is a sad day, and that people just need to lighten up. She would later go on to actually voice a character named Stella on Family Guy, completing her journey from unwitting target to willing participant. Matlin's story shows that for some celebrities, the smartest response to being mocked was not to fight it, but to join it. And by joining it, she took ownership of the joke and turned it into something that worked for her rather than against her. Rush Limbaugh appeared on the show multiple times, which is notable because Limbaugh was one of the most polarizing political figures in the United States, and MacFarlane is one of the most openly liberal creators in Hollywood. You would think that combination would be toxic, but Limbaugh, to his credit, was willing to poke fun at himself with remarkable self-awareness. He made jokes about his controversial statements that got him fired from ESPN. He made fun of his own extreme political positions. He played along with a storyline that paired him romantically with Michael Moore, who was actually voiced by Fred Savage. The fact that Rush Limbaugh could sit in a recording booth and make fun of himself for a show created by someone who disagreed with virtually everything he believed tells you something about the strange, almost magnetic pull that Family Guy had over celebrities during its peak. Tom Brady appeared on the show and played a version of himself that leaned into every stereotype about his good looks and his seemingly perfect life. In the episode 300, Peter winds up hosting a Quahog variety show, and Brady shows up as a guest. But what makes Brady's willingness to appear notable is the context. At the time, Brady was arguably the most famous active athlete in the United States. He was the quarterback of the New England Patriots, a multiple Super Bowl champion, married to a supermodel, and the subject of constant media attention. He had absolutely nothing to gain from appearing on Family Guy and everything to lose if the portrayal went badly. But he did it anyway, because by that point, the unwritten rule of Hollywood was clear. If Family Guy calls, you pick up the phone. Betty White was another willing participant whose appearance on the show said something about her extraordinary ability to stay relevant across generations. White, who was already in her late 80s when she voiced herself on the show, played along with jokes that would have offended many people half her age. She understood something that younger celebrities sometimes did not, which was that the ability to laugh at yourself is the most attractive quality a famous person can have. The public did not love Betty White because she was dignified and above it all. They loved her because she was game for anything, and Family Guy gave her a chance to prove that once again. The psychology behind all of these willing participants is genuinely fascinating when you stop and think about it. Being on Family Guy became a form of social currency in Hollywood. It was a test, a gauntlet. You either passed it by showing up and being a good sport, or you failed it by refusing and being labelled uptight. And the consequences of failing were real. In an industry where likability is everything, where your public image determines whether you get cast, whether you get endorsements, whether you get invited to the right parties and introduced to the right people, being known as someone who could not take a joke was a genuine liability. Family Guy weaponized that fear beautifully. The show did not force anyone to participate. It did not have to. The social pressure of the entertainment industry did the forcing for them. All the show had to do was extend the invitation and let Hollywood's own culture of cool do the rest. There is also a generational component to this. Celebrities who grew up watching Family Guy, who came of age in the era of YouTube clips and Adult Swim reruns, were generally more willing to participate than older celebrities who had established their careers in a different media landscape. For the younger generation, being on Family Guy was like being part of the culture they had consumed as teenagers. It was aspirational. For the older generation, it was more complicated. Some embraced it, like Adam West and Betty White. Others resisted, like Carol Burnett. The difference often came down to whether the celebrity saw the show as a threat to their legacy or an extension of it. The Star Trek connection is another layer of this story. MacFarlane is a massive Star Trek fan. He has spoken about it extensively and would later go on to create The Orville, a science fiction series that is heavily influenced by Star Trek. This fandom led to the entire original cast of Star Trek The Next Generation guest starring on Family Guy. Patrick Stewart, who plays Captain Picard, became a recurring presence on the show. These were not hostile appearances, these were celebrations. MacFarlane's love for Star Trek meant that those particular celebrities were treated with a kind of reverence that other targets did not receive. It shows that the show's approach to celebrities was never purely cruel. It was selective. Some people got the red carpet, others got the wrecking ball. And the deciding factor was often just how the writers and MacFarlane personally felt about the person in question. Betty White, Bob Barker, Tom Brady, Alex Trebek, Frank Sinatra Jr., Carol Channing. The list of celebrities who played themselves on Family Guy goes on and on. Hundreds of famous people over the course of 25 years have willingly stepped into the show's world and allowed themselves to be used as comedy props. Some of them, like Adam West, found new life through the experience. Others, like James Woods, eventually realized that the relationship had an expiration date. And a few, like Marlee Matlin, figured out that the best defense against being mocked was to become part of the team doing the mocking. But there is an important distinction that needs to be made here. Every celebrity we have talked about in this section made a choice. They chose to participate, they chose to show up, they chose to let the show use them, and because they made that choice, they had some degree of control over how they were portrayed. Adam West agreed to be a lunatic, Ryan Reynolds agreed to be flirtatious, Marlee Matlin agreed to laugh along. The celebrities we are about to talk about did not make that choice. They did not get a phone call. They did not walk into a recording booth. They did not agree to anything. They woke up one morning, turned on their television or opened their phone, and discovered that a cartoon had used their name, their face, their body, their disability, or their personal tragedy as a punchline without asking their permission. And some of them were not able to laugh it off. Some of them fought back. Some of them went to court. And some of them suffered real, lasting, documented harm that went far beyond just having their feelings hurt by a cartoon. The first celebrity to take Family Guy to court was a woman who had spent decades making people laugh. Her name was Carol Burnett, and her lawsuit against the show would set a legal precedent that would protect Family Guy for years to come, even though that was the last thing she intended. On April 23rd, 2006, Fox aired an episode of Family Guy called Paterotica. In the episode, Peter Griffin walks into an adult entertainment store. It is not a particularly notable scene in the larger context of the episode, but in the background of that store, mopping the floors in front of a display of adult products, is a character that is clearly meant to be Carol Burnett's famous charwoman. The charwoman was a beloved character that Burnett had created for her legendary variety show, The Carol Burnett Show, which ran from 1967 to 1978. The charwoman wore a specific outfit. She had a specific look. And on The Carol Burnett Show, she was always associated with warmth, humour, and class. She was one of the most recognisable characters in the history of American television comedy. Family Guy took that character and put her in a pawn shop. Not just in the background, either. The scene includes dialogue. A character says that the shop is so clean because Carol Burnett works there as a part-time janitor. And then, to twist the knife a little further, another character says when she tugged her ear at the end of the show, she was really saying goodnight to her mum. If you know anything about Carol Burnett, Quagmire responds with a crude joke about Quagmire responds with a crude joke about what she might have tugged to say goodnight to her father. Carol Burnett did not think this was funny. She filed a lawsuit against Fox and the producers of Family Guy, arguing that they had committed copyright infringement by using her charwoman character without permission, and that they had violated her publicity rights by associating her personal trademark, the ear tug, with pornographic material. Reports at the time said that Burnett was seeking somewhere between $2 and $6 million in damages. The case went before Judge Dean Pregerson, and this is where the story gets important, not just for Carol Burnett, but for every celebrity who would ever be mocked by Family Guy in the future. Judge Pregerson threw the lawsuit out. He dismissed the case under the First Amendment, ruling that Family Guy's depiction of the charwoman was a protected parody. The show had the legal right to use Burnett's character for comedic purposes, even if the comedy was vulgar, distasteful, and offensive. However, the judge did not dismiss the case without comment. He stated on the record that he fully appreciated how distasteful and offensive the segment was to Burnett. He acknowledged that what the show did was crude and hurtful. But the law was the law. Parody is protected speech. And animation, a judge essentially confirmed, gets to play by different rules than other forms of media when it comes to depicting real people. This ruling matters because it created a template. After the Burnett case, every celebrity considering a lawsuit against Family Guy had to reckon with the fact that a court had already decided that the show's brand of mockery was legally protected. You could be offended, you could be hurt, you could be angry, but you could not sue them and win. The First Amendment was Family Guy's ace in the hole, and the Burnett case proved that it was a card that could not be trumped. The next major lawsuit came just a year later. In October 2007, the Bourne Company, which held the sole copyright to the song When You Wish Upon a Star from Disney's Pinocchio, filed a lawsuit against Fox and the creators of Family Guy. The issue was a song from the season 3 episode When You Wish Upon a Weinstein. In that episode, Peter Griffin sings a parody version of When You Wish Upon a Star with new lyrics titled I Need a Jew. The song uses the melody of the original, but replaces the wholesome, magical lyrics about wishing on a star with lyrics that play on Jewish stereotypes. The episode itself had already been controversial. Fox refused to air it on broadcast television for years because of concerns about the content. It was eventually released on a DVD set and later aired on Adult Swim before finally getting a broadcast run. But the Bourne Company's lawsuit was specifically about the music, not the content of the episode. They argued that the song was not a true parody, but a thinly veiled copy that damaged the value of their original composition. Their attorney pointed out the structural similarities between the two songs and argued that the association with offensive lyrics harmed the reputation of the original. The case dragged on for about 2 years before US District Judge Deborah Batts ruled in March 2009 that Family Guy had not infringed the copyright. Judge Batts held that I Need a Jew was a parody of When You Wish Upon a Star and was therefore exempt from liability under the fair use doctrine. She noted that the lyrics and tone of the two songs were strikingly different. She said that it was precisely the beneficial association that the original song had with wholesome, magical content that opened it up for ridicule by parodists seeking to deflate those lofty associations. In other words, the more beloved and iconic the original, the more protected the parody of it becomes. That is a remarkable legal principle when you think about it. It means that the bigger the target, the safer the shot. Art Metrano's case was smaller but equally revealing. Metrano, who is known for his appearances in the Police Academy films, had a comedy routine that involved him performing a fake magic act. Family Guy parodied this routine in Stewie Griffin: The Untold Story, the direct-to-DVD movie that was later broken into 3 broadcast episodes. Metrano first sued in 2000, then dropped the suit, then refiled in September 2008 for $2 million. He even tried to register his comedy routine with the Copyright Office, but they denied the request. In July 2009, the courts initially denied the network's motion for dismissal, suggesting the parody might have violated Metrano's work, but the case was eventually resolved without going to trial. What makes the Metrano case interesting is not the outcome. It is the fact that it happened at all. Art Metrano was not a household name by the time Family Guy referenced him. He was a relatively obscure performer whose biggest claim to fame was a series of supporting roles in comedy films from the 1980s. The fact that Family Guy went after someone that far below the radar tells you something about the show's indiscriminate approach to celebrity mockery. Nobody was too famous to be targeted, and nobody was too obscure either. If the writers thought there was a joke to be had, they took the shot regardless of whether the target was a global superstar or a guy most people had forgotten about. Sarah Palin's experience with Family Guy was not a lawsuit, but it might be the most publicly explosive celebrity confrontation the show ever produced. In 2010, Family Guy aired the season 8-episode extra-large medium. In the episode, Chris Griffin goes on a date with a young woman named Ellen who has Down syndrome. At one point during their date, Ellen mentions that her mother is the former governor of Alaska. The reference was unmistakable. Sarah Palin, the former governor of Alaska and the 2008 Republican vice presidential nominee, has a son with Down syndrome named Trig, who was about 2 years old when the episode aired. The reaction was immediate and fierce. Bristol Palin, Sarah's daughter, went on Facebook and called Family Guy a particularly pathetic cartoon and described the creators as heartless jerks. Sarah Palin herself appeared on The O'Reilly Factor on Fox News and called the people behind the show cruel, cold-hearted people. The controversy made national news. It was one of those moments where the political world and the entertainment world collided in a way that generated heat from both sides. But then came the twist that nobody expected. Andrea Faye Friedman, the voice actress who had actually played Ellen in the episode, released a public statement. Friedman has Down syndrome herself, and in her statement she said that the joke was directed at Sarah Palin, not at her son. She said, and this became one of the most quoted responses in the entire history of the show, "I guess former Governor Palin does not have a sense of humour." MacFarlane discussed the controversy on Bill Maher's show, pointing to Friedman's statement as evidence that the joke was punching up at a political figure, not down at a child with a disability. The cultural conversation shifted. Some people still found the joke tasteless, but the fact that the actress who delivered the line, an actress who actually lives with Down syndrome, was defending the show's right to make that joke, changed the calculus for a lot of viewers. The Palin incident showed that Family Guy's celebrity battles were not always simple stories of a mean cartoon picking on helpless famous people. Sometimes the situation was genuinely complicated, with reasonable arguments on both sides. Seth MacFarlane himself has acknowledged that not every celebrity takes the show's mockery in stride. In an appearance on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, MacFarlane was asked to name a celebrity who had not been a good sport about being parodied on the show. His answer was Adrian Brody. MacFarlane explained that he had approached Brody at a party because he had just seen the film Splice and thought it was great. He went up to Brody and said he hoped there were no hard feelings about the Family Guy jokes, which had made fun of Brody's prominent nose. Brody's response, according to MacFarlane, was essentially that there were hard feelings. The encounter was brief and apparently uncomfortable. It is a small moment, but it tells you something important. The cutaway gags that come and go in 10 seconds on screen can stick with the person being targeted for years. The nation of Venezuela took things even further than any individual celebrity ever did. After the season 7 episode 420 aired, an episode in which Brian Griffin leads a campaign to legalize marijuana in Quahog, the Venezuelan government reacted with open hostility. Venezuela's justice minister at the time cited the episode as an example of the United States promoting drug use, and cable stations across the country were warned that they would be fined if they continued to air the show. Family Guy was effectively banned from Venezuelan television. An entire country decided that the show had crossed a line. And while the situation was specific to Venezuela's political context at the time, it remains one of the most extreme, real-world consequences that Family Guy has ever generated. A cartoon about a fat guy in Rhode Island got itself banned by a sovereign nation. The through line connecting all of these stories, from Carol Burnett's lawsuit to the Bourne Company's copyright claim, to Sarah Palin's political firestorm, to Venezuela's national ban, is that Family Guy kept going. Every single time someone pushed back, the show absorbed the blow and continued doing exactly what it had been doing before. The lawsuits failed. The political outrage faded. The international bans were treated as punchlines in future episodes. Nothing worked, nothing stopped the machine. And there is a very specific reason for that. The legal framework in the United States, built on the First Amendment and decades of case law around parody and satire, is essentially a fortress around this kind of comedy. The Hustler magazine versus Jerry Falwell case from 1988 established that public figures cannot recover damages for emotional distress caused by parody or satire. The courts have consistently held that animated depictions of real people are treated less seriously than realistic portrayals, and Family Guy's legal department at Fox and later Disney knows exactly where the boundaries are. Every joke goes through a standards and practices review. Rich Appel, one of the show's executive producers, explained the process when he said that the episodes are vetted by the legal standards department, and that either there has to be some basis for a joke, or it has to be so insane and unbelievable that no one could possibly take it seriously. And in some instances, both were true. That last part is the key. Some of the jokes were so extreme that the legal team cleared them because they seemed too crazy to be real. But as we will discover later in this video, some of those too crazy to be real jokes turned out to be uncomfortably close to the truth. The show's writers were not just being outrageous for the sake of it. In some cases, they were broadcasting whispers from inside Hollywood's inner circles. But we will get to that. For now, what matters is this. The unwilling targets fought the show in courtrooms, on cable news, in public statements, and even through government action. And they all lost, every single one of them. Family Guy survived every challenge because the legal system, by design, protects exactly the kind of humour that the show produces. And once that protection was established and tested, there was nothing left to stop the writers from going further, which is exactly what they did. Because some of the people who were targeted by Family Guy did not just have their feelings hurt or their reputations bruised. Some of them suffered real, measurable, lasting damage to their mental health and their lives. And those stories are harder to laugh at than anything the show has ever put on screen. In 2011, Family Guy aired a season 10 episode called Amish Guy. It was a fairly standard episode. The Griffin family takes a road trip, gets stranded in Amish country, and Peter gets into various conflicts with the local Amish community. Nothing about this episode would seem destined to change someone's life. But buried in the middle of the episode, in a scene that lasts just a few seconds, the show introduces a character called Legs Go All the Way Up Griffin. She is described as Peter's great aunt, and her physical design is exactly what the name suggests. She has an absurdly short torso and extremely long legs. Her entire body is basically just legs with a face and arms attached to the top. It was a quick visual gag, the kind of throwaway joke that Family Guy produces dozens of per episode. The kind of thing that airs once, maybe gets a small laugh, and then is forgotten by the time the next cutaway starts. 5 years later, in 2016, a photographer snapped a picture of actress Chloe Grace Moretz walking into a hotel carrying 2 pizza boxes. She was wearing a black t-shirt, black shorts, and black high heels. It was an entirely unremarkable paparazzi photo, the kind of picture that gets taken of young celebrities hundreds of times a day. But someone on the internet noticed that the angle of the photograph, combined with what Moretz was wearing, made her proportions look slightly unusual. Her legs looked longer relative to her torso, and that someone remembered the Family Guy character from 5 years earlier. They put the 2 images side by side, Moretz on the left, Legs Go All the Way Up Griffin on the right, and they posted it online. The meme went viral. It spread across Instagram, Reddit, Twitter, and every other platform where people share content designed to get a reaction. Hundreds of thousands of people saw it. Then millions. The comparison was everywhere. Moretz's actual body, photographed without her knowledge or consent, was being placed next to a cartoon character designed to look grotesque and absurd, and the entire internet was laughing at the similarity. Moretz did not find it funny. In a 2022 interview with Hunger magazine, she spoke publicly about the experience for the first time in detail. She said that there was one meme that really affected her, of her walking into a hotel with a pizza box in her hand, and that this photo got manipulated into a character from Family Guy with the long legs and the short torso, and that it was one of the most widespread memes at the time. She said that everyone was making fun of her body, and when she brought it up with someone, they told her to shut up because it was funny. And she remembered sitting there thinking that her body was being used as a joke, and it was something she could not change about who she was, and it was being posted all over Instagram. The meme did not just hurt her feelings, it changed her life. Moretz described developing body dysmorphia, a mental health condition where a person becomes consumed by perceived flaws in their physical appearance. She said that the experience took something she used to enjoy, which was getting dressed up and going to a red carpet and taking a photo, and made her super self-conscious. She said that the body dysmorphia that we all deal with in this world was made exponentially worse by the issues of social media. She became a recluse. Those are her words, not mine. She said that she basically stopped going out in public because the anxiety of being photographed had become overwhelming. Her heart rate would rise. She would hyperventilate. The simple act of walking outside and knowing that someone might take her picture, and that picture might become another meme comparing her body to a cartoon character, was enough to trigger a genuine physiological panic response in a young woman who was barely in her 20s. And here is what makes this case so uniquely devastating. Family Guy did not target Moretz. The character, Legs Go, all the way up Griffin was not about her. It was not inspired by her. It was not a parody of her. It was a generic visual gag about a person with exaggerated body proportions. Moretz was not on the writer's radar when they created that character in 2011. She was 14 years old at the time. The connection between Moretz and the cartoon character was made entirely by the internet, years after the episode aired, based on an unflattering paparazzi photo that caught her at an awkward angle. But that distinction does not matter to the person living with the consequences. Family Guy created the ammunition. The internet loaded it into the gun, and Moretz took the bullet. Whether the writers intended it or not, the show produced a piece of content that was used to humiliate and psychologically damage a real human being for years. And the show has never acknowledged Moretz's experience. There has been no apology, no statement, no recognition that a throwaway gag from a random episode caused a young actress to develop a mental health condition that she described as something she still has not fully overcome more than 6 years after the meme first appeared. Moretz told Hunger magazine that to this day, when she sees that meme, it is something very hard for her to overcome. To this day, 6 years later, from a cartoon character that was on screen for less than 10 seconds. Michael J. Fox's experience with Family Guy is different from Moretz's in almost every way, but the underlying dynamic is the same. The show took something about a real person that they cannot change, something that causes them genuine suffering in their daily life, and turned it into a recurring source of comedy. Fox was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 1991. He has been one of the most public and courageous advocates for Parkinson's research in the world. His foundation has raised hundreds of millions of dollars to fund treatments and potential cures. He has spoken openly about how the disease has affected his life, his career, and his family. He has done more to raise awareness about Parkinson's than perhaps any other person on the planet. Family Guy has made his disease a punchline multiple times across multiple seasons. In the episode Teagues for Two, a cutaway gag shows Fox spilling wine on Peter's shirt because his hands are shaking. He then tries to write Peter a check but cannot control his hand enough to make it legible. The joke is that Fox's Parkinson's symptoms make him unable to perform basic physical tasks. In another reference, Fox attempts to make the letter Z while dressed as Zorro, but his tremors make the mark come out wrong. In The Juice is Loose, Stewie warns Fox about his disease in a time travel context, as if the disease is a joke that the audience is in on. These are not jokes about something Fox said or did. They are not jokes about his career choices, or his political views, or his public behaviour. They are jokes about a degenerative neurological condition that is slowly taking away his ability to control his own body. Parkinson's disease causes progressive tremors, stiffness, slowness of movement, and difficulty with balance and coordination. It is incurable. It gets worse over time. Fox has lived with it for over 30 years now, and he will live with it for the rest of his life. And Family Guy decided that this was funny enough to revisit again and again. The difference between mocking Michael J. Fox's Parkinson's and mocking, say, Peter Griffin's stupidity is that Peter Griffin is a fictional character. He does not feel anything. He does not suffer. He does not wake up in the morning wondering whether today will be the day his body stops cooperating with his mind. Michael J. Fox is a real person. He lives with that fear every day, and Family Guy took that fear and turned it into content. Robin Williams presents yet another dimension of this problem. Williams was one of the most beloved comedians and actors of his generation. He was known for his manic energy, his improvisational genius, and his ability to make people laugh in ways that few other performers could match. Family Guy referenced and mocked Williams repeatedly throughout the show's run. In the episode Mackstroke, Peter listens to Williams' stand-up comedy for about 30 seconds and then gets up and walks outside because he finds it annoying. In Family Guy viewer mail number 2, a character named Jeff Ross says he wants to punch Williams in the face while watching his movies. In Brian's Got a Brand New Bag, Peter is offered a free copy of What Dreams May Come, one of Williams' films, and turns it down as if the movie is worthless. These are not devastating attacks. They are relatively mild by Family Guy standards, but they represent a consistent pattern of the show, treating one of the most talented performers in history as a punching bag for cheap laughs. Then on August 11th, 2014, Robin Williams died by suicide. He was 63 years old. It was later revealed that Williams had been suffering from Lewy body dementia, a progressive brain disease that can cause severe depression, anxiety, and cognitive decline. His death shocked the world and prompted an enormous outpouring of grief from fans, fellow performers, and the entertainment industry at large. After Williams' death, the Family Guy jokes about him took on a different weight. The clips that had once seemed like harmless ribbing now felt uncomfortable to revisit, and the show did not stop making jokes about him after his passing. References to Williams continued to appear in later seasons, which struck some viewers as crossing a line from parody into something that felt disrespectful to a man who could no longer defend himself. What makes the Williams situation particularly painful is the gap between the public perception of him and the private reality he was living. Williams was seen as the funniest, most energetic, most alive person in any room he entered. That was the image that the public consumed and that Family Guy mocked. The annoying energy, the constant improvisation, the inability to stop performing. But behind that image was a man who was struggling with depression, anxiety, and a degenerative brain disease that was slowly stripping away everything that made him who he was. The comedy that Family Guy mocked was not just a performance choice, it was a survival mechanism. Williams performed because performing was the only thing that kept the darkness at bay, and the show took that survival mechanism and treated it as a character flaw worth ridiculing. There is no evidence that Family Guy's jokes contributed to Williams' suffering in any direct way. His death was the result of a medical condition that no amount of public kindness or cruelty could have changed. But the existence of those jokes permanently archived on the internet, permanently available for anyone to find and share, means that Williams' legacy will always include a collection of animated clips that reduce one of the most complex and talented performers of his generation to a one-dimensional annoyance. He deserved better than that, and the fact that the show could not give him better, even after his death, says something about the machine's inability to distinguish between targets who can absorb the hits and targets who are already carrying more weight than anyone realized. The Robin Williams situation highlights one of the fundamental problems with Family Guy's approach to celebrity mockery. The show produces content that exists permanently. A joke that was written in 2005 still exists in 2025. It is still on YouTube. It is still in reruns on Adult Swim and Comedy Central. It is still on Hulu. And the context around that joke can change dramatically over time. A joke about Robin Williams being annoying in 2005 means something very different after you know that Williams spent the final years of his life fighting a brain disease that was destroying his mind and his will to live. But the joke does not change. It sits there, frozen in time, saying the same thing it always said, oblivious to the tragedy that came after it was written. This is a problem that no other form of celebrity mockery faces in quite the same way. A late-night comedian makes a joke about a celebrity, and that joke airs once and mostly disappears. A tabloid runs a story about a celebrity, and that story gets replaced by the next day's paper. But a Family Guy cutaway gag gets uploaded to YouTube on the day it airs and stays there forever. It gets clipped, shared, embedded in articles, referenced in other videos, and played in compilation after compilation for years and decades. The show's jokes have a shelf life that extends far beyond what any of the writers could have predicted when they were sitting in a room pitching ideas. And that permanence means that the show's worst jokes, the ones that target people's disabilities, their bodies, their personal tragedies, and their darkest moments, are not just offensive in the moment they air. They are offensive forever. They are always there, always available, always ready to resurface whenever someone searches for them or stumbles across them in a recommended video feed. Family Guy does not just mock celebrities, it creates a permanent archive of that mockery that follows its targets for the rest of their lives. The broader pattern here is worth stepping back and examining. The show's approach to celebrity humour consistently gravitates toward things that people cannot control about themselves. Moretz could not control her body proportions. Fox cannot control his Parkinson's symptoms. Williams could not control the brain disease that was killing him. These are not choices. These are not scandals. These are not things that anyone did wrong. They are simply aspects of being human. And Family Guy decided that being human in these specific ways was worthy of ridicule. This is where the conversation about the show gets genuinely uncomfortable for people who enjoy it. Because many of the celebrity gags on Family Guy are funny in isolation. If you do not think about the real person behind the joke, if you just see it as a cartoon doing cartoon things, the comedy can work. The wine spilling gag is, on a purely mechanical level, a well-constructed visual joke. The timing is good, the execution is sharp. If you remove Michael J. Fox from the equation and just think of it as a generic character struggling with a physical task, it is funny, but you cannot remove Michael J. Fox from the equation. Because the whole point of the joke is that it is him. That is what makes it a celebrity gag instead of a generic cutaway. The show is trading on the audience's knowledge that this is a real person with a real disease, and the comedy comes from the audience recognizing that reality and laughing at it. The show needs you to know who Michael J. Fox is and what Parkinson's does to him in order for the joke to work. And that means the show is asking you to laugh at a real person's real suffering. Whether or not that is acceptable is a question that every viewer has to answer for themselves. But the people who were on the receiving end of those jokes have already answered it. Moretz answered it when she described becoming a recluse. Fox has answered it through a career spent trying to fund a cure for the disease that Family Guy uses as a punchline. And Williams answered it in the most final way possible, though his answer had nothing to do with Family Guy and everything to do with a disease that no amount of comedy could have cured. What connects all of these stories is a simple truth. The show creates content about real people. That content lives forever. And the show has no mechanism, no process, and no apparent desire to revisit that content when the circumstances of the real person's life change. The joke about Robin Williams stays the same even after Robin Williams dies. The joke about Michael J. Fox stays the same even as his disease progresses. The character that looks like Chloe Grace Moretz stays online even as Moretz publicly describes the psychological damage it caused her. Family Guy fires the shot and moves on, but the bullet keeps travelling. And if you thought the show's treatment of the celebrities we have discussed so far was hard to process, the next part of this story is even stranger. Because Family Guy did not just mock celebrities after their problems became public knowledge. In several remarkable cases, the show made jokes about celebrities' darkest secrets years before anyone else was willing to say those things out loud. And some of those jokes turned out to be warnings that nobody listened to. On June 5th, 2005, Fox aired a season 4 episode of Family Guy called Don't Make Me Over. It was a fairly typical episode from the show's early revival period. The main plot involved the family trying to give Meg a makeover. Nothing controversial, nothing remarkable. Just another 22 minutes of animated comedy on a Sunday night. But buried inside that episode, lasting no more than 3 or 4 seconds, was a cutaway gag that would resurface 12 years later and send shockwaves across the internet. The gag showed baby Stewie running naked through a crowded department store, screaming at the top of his lungs, "Help! I've escaped from Kevin Spacey's basement. Help me!" In 2005, this joke meant almost nothing to the average viewer. Kevin Spacey was one of the most respected actors in Hollywood. He had won 2 Academy Awards, one for American Beauty and one for The Usual Suspects. He was starring in the Netflix series House of Cards, which was one of the most watched shows on the platform. If you were watching Family Guy in 2005 and you heard that Stewie line, you probably thought it was just a random, absurd joke, the kind of weird, dark, context-free humour that the show was famous for. You laughed or you did not, and then the episode moved on. 12 years later, in October 2017, actor Anthony Rapp gave an interview to BuzzFeed in which he accused Kevin Spacey of making sexual advances towards him in 1986, when Rapp was just 14 years old. The accusation was the first of many. After Rapp came forward, multiple other men made similar claims against Spacey. He was fired from House of Cards. His career collapsed almost overnight, and the entertainment industry was forced to reckon with the possibility that one of its most celebrated actors had been hiding a terrible secret for decades. And then someone remembered the Family Guy clip from 2005. The 3-second cutaway of a naked baby screaming about escaping from Kevin Spacey's basement was suddenly not a random joke anymore. It was a signal, a broadcast from 12 years in the past that seemed to predict exactly what was about to come out. The clip went viral immediately. Millions of people watched it and asked the same question. How did they know? Seth MacFarlane addressed this at the Television Critics Association Winter Press Tour in January 2018. He said that the myth that Family Guy is this Kreskin-like prognosticator of things is a little bit sensationalized. He said that when the joke was pitched in the writer's room, the rumour about Spacey was one that he personally had not heard before. Other writers in the room had heard it, and they had to explain it to him. MacFarlane was essentially saying that the joke came from Hollywood gossip, not from psychic ability. Alex Sulkin, the show's co-showrunner, filled in more detail. He said that around 2004, there had been a story about Spacey being beaten up by a young person in a London park. Spacey initially reported the incident, but then changed his story and said he had tripped over his dog. Sulkin said that the story raised a lot of eyebrows among people who were paying attention. The writers took that whisper, that raised eyebrow, and turned it into a cutaway gag. 3 seconds of a cartoon baby screaming about a basement. That was all, but it was enough. Rich Appel, the other co-showrunner, explained the process by which such jokes get approved. He said that the episodes are vetted by the legal standards department, and that either there has to be some basis for a joke, meaning some published rumour or reported incident, or it has to be so insane and unbelievable that no one could possibly take it seriously. And he added that in some of these instances, both were true. The joke was based on a real rumour, and it was also crazy enough that nobody took it seriously at the time. Both things were true simultaneously, and that is how it slipped through. The Kevin Spacey joke is the most famous example of Family Guy apparently predicting a celebrity scandal, but it is far from the only one. In fact, there is an entire genre of internet content dedicated to cataloguing the times that the show seemed to know something before the rest of the world caught on. Harvey Weinstein is the second most cited example. On February 24, 2013, Seth MacFarlane hosted the 85th Academy Awards. During the ceremony, he announced the nominees for Best Supporting Actress and then said to the 5 nominated women, "Congratulations, you 5 ladies no longer have to pretend to be attracted to Harvey Weinstein." The joke got a laugh from the audience. Some people in the room looked uncomfortable, but nobody treated it as anything more than a sharp Hollywood joke from a comedian who was known for pushing boundaries. 4 years later, in October 2017, the New York Times and the New Yorker published explosive investigations into Harvey Weinstein's decades of sexual harassment and assault. Dozens of women came forward with accusations. Weinstein was eventually convicted and sentenced to prison, and the Me Too movement, which his downfall helped to ignite, transformed the entertainment industry and the broader culture in ways that are still being felt today. After the Weinstein revelations, people went back and watched MacFarlane's Oscar joke with new eyes. The line about no longer having to pretend to be attracted to Weinstein was not just a joke, it was a statement of fact delivered on one of the biggest stages in the world, 4 years before the facts became public. MacFarlane later acknowledged that he had heard whispers about Weinstein's behaviour. He knew what others in Hollywood knew, and he chose to broadcast it in the form of a joke at the Academy Awards. This raises a genuinely uncomfortable question about the role that comedy plays in exposing wrongdoing. MacFarlane had information, or at least strong suspicions, about a powerful man who was harming women, and instead of going to a journalist or law enforcement, he turned it into a punchline. You can argue that he was brave for saying it at all. You can argue that comedy is sometimes the only way to say things that are too dangerous to say directly. But you can also argue that wrapping it in a joke allowed everyone in the room to laugh and then immediately forget about it, which is exactly what happened. The joke landed, the audience laughed, and Harvey Weinstein continued to operate for 4 more years. The Bruce Jenner prediction is perhaps the most widely cited example of Family Guy seemingly seeing the future. In the season 7 episode We Love You, Conrad, which aired in 2009, Brian and Stewie are on the set of the reality show The Hills. They see Brody Jenner, and Stewie makes a comment about how he cannot believe that Brody came out of Bruce Jenner's body. Brian corrects him, saying that Bruce Jenner is a man, and Stewie responds by saying that Bruce Jenner is a woman. An elegant, beautiful Dutch woman. The show returned to this idea again in the season 10 episode Lottery Fever, where Peter brings Bruce Jenner on stage to perform a feminine burlesque dance for a group of Navy SEALs. Peter says to the crowd, clearly commenting on how Jenner's performance was unexpectedly feminine, that he just wanted to remind them what they were all fighting for. 6 years after the first joke, and 4 years after the second, in 2015, Bruce Jenner publicly announced a transition from male to female and began living as Caitlyn Jenner. Stewie's seemingly random quip from a 2009 episode had turned out to be accurate. MacFarlane was asked about this on a conference call with reporters after Jenner's announcement. He said he was too savvy to comment on the issue to the media, which is a notably careful answer from someone who is normally not afraid to say anything about anyone. The Ellen DeGeneres situation is a more recent addition to this pattern. In the season 9 episode And I'm Joyce Kinney, which aired in 2011, there is a cutaway gag that makes fun of Ellen DeGeneres' tendency to speak over her guests on her talk show and to make them uncomfortable. The joke portrays DeGeneres as a host who dominates the conversation and does not let people actually speak. At the time, it was just another celebrity gag. DeGeneres was one of the most beloved television personalities in the country. Her show was a ratings powerhouse. The idea that she was anything other than a charming, friendly talk show host was not part of the public conversation. Then, in 2020, allegations surfaced that the workplace environment on the Ellen DeGeneres show was toxic. Multiple current and former employees described a culture of intimidation, bullying, and fear. 3 senior producers were fired following an internal investigation. The show's ratings plummeted, and in 2022, The Ellen DeGeneres Show aired its final episode. DeGeneres' public image had been fundamentally altered. Family Guy, which had been making jokes about DeGeneres for years before the allegations surfaced, leaned harder into the material after the story broke. In a later season, the show aired a parody of the sad Sarah McLachlan animal donation commercials, but instead of abused animals, it featured the production staff of The Ellen DeGeneres Show. Camera operators picking up sandwiches that had been battered from their hands, production assistants cowering. The joke was that working for Ellen was as miserable as being an abused animal in a shelter. It was savage. And it landed because the audience now knew what had been happening behind the scenes. The pattern across all of these examples, Spacey, Weinstein, Jenner, and DeGeneres, is consistent. Family Guy did not have secret intelligence. The show's writers were not psychic. What they had was access to Hollywood's whisper network. The rumors, the open secrets, the things that everyone in the industry knew, but nobody was willing to say on the record. These things circulated through parties, through agents, through late-night conversations at industry events. And the Family Guy writers' room, staffed by people who were deeply embedded in the entertainment world, picked up on those whispers and turned them into jokes. The legal framework that Appel described makes this process possible. If a rumor has been published somewhere, or if the joke is outrageous enough that no reasonable person would take it literally, the legal department clears it. And so the whispers get laundered through comedy. They go from being unverified gossip to being a joke in a cartoon, which means nobody takes them seriously. The information is technically public, technically broadcast to millions of people, but it is wrapped in enough absurdity that it does not register as a real accusation. It registers as a bit, a gag, a cutaway. And that is maybe the most unsettling thing about this entire pattern. Family Guy was telling us things about powerful people. Real things, true things, things that, when they eventually came out, destroyed careers and changed lives. And we laughed at them. We shared the clips. We quoted the jokes. We treated the information as entertainment instead of as evidence, because it was delivered in a format that our brains process as fictional, even when the content is factual. There is a strange, almost paradoxical relationship between comedy and truth here. When Stewie screamed about Spacey's basement, the joke contained a real warning. When MacFarlane told Oscar nominees they did not have to pretend to be attracted to Weinstein, the joke contained a real accusation. When Stewie called Bruce Jenner a beautiful Dutch woman, the joke contained a real insight. But because these statements were delivered as jokes, they were received as jokes. The truth was hidden in plain sight, disguised by laughter. Family Guy did not just predict these scandals, it participated in the system that allowed them to continue. By turning serious allegations into comedy, the show gave the audience permission to acknowledge the rumours without taking them seriously. You could laugh at the Kevin Spacey joke without believing that Kevin Spacey was actually a predator. You could laugh at the Weinstein joke without thinking about what it meant for the women who were being harmed. The comedy functioned as a pressure release valve. It let the air out of the balloon without the balloon ever popping. Until it did pop. And when it did, when the allegations became public and the trial started and the careers collapsed, people went back to those clips and realised that the warnings had been there all along. The cartoon had told us. And we had laughed. But here is the thing that nobody really talks about when they discuss Family Guy's predictions. The show made thousands of celebrity jokes over 25 years. Some of them turned out to be eerily accurate, but most of them did not predict anything. Most of them were just jokes. When you fire 5,000 shots, some of them are going to hit targets that you did not even know were there. The selection bias is enormous. We remember the Spacey joke because it turned out to be true. We do not remember the thousands of other celebrity gags that turned out to be nothing more than random humour. The prediction phenomenon is partly real, in the sense that the writers did draw from genuine industry gossip, and partly an artifact of the sheer volume of content the show produced. Regardless of how much of it was genuine insight and how much was statistical inevitability, the prediction phenomenon contributed to the show's mystique and its perceived authority when it came to celebrity culture. Family Guy was not just mocking famous people, it was in some cases exposing them. And that reputation gave the show a kind of cultural power that went far beyond what any normal cartoon would have. The show that predicted Kevin Spacey, the show that warned us about Harvey Weinstein, the show that knew about Caitlyn Jenner years before anyone else. These stories became part of Family Guy's legend, and they made the show feel less like a crude comedy and more like a cultural institution that saw things other people could not or would not see. So the show could predict scandals, it could survive lawsuits, it could weather political firestorms and international bans. It could cause genuine psychological harm to the people it targeted and keep going without missing a beat. But none of that fully answers the question that sits at the centre of this entire story. How was all of this allowed to happen? Not in one specific instance, but systematically, across 25 years, without anyone or anything effectively stopping it? The answer is not simple. It involves a legal system, a corporate calculation, a cultural moment, and a creator who eventually stopped being in the room to ask whether any of this had gone too far. There are other examples that get cited less frequently, but are worth mentioning because they add to the overall picture. Brett Ratner, the film director known for the Rush Hour franchise and X-Men: The Last Stand, was referenced in a 2012 Family Guy episode in a way that implied inappropriate behaviour. 5 years later, in 2017, the Los Angeles Times published a report in which multiple women accused Ratner of sexual harassment and misconduct. His production company's deal with Warner Brothers was allowed to quietly expire. His career effectively ended. The show also made repeated jokes about Bill Cosby long before the full scope of his crimes became public knowledge. In the 2005 episode, Stewie Loves Lois, there is a scene where Peter tries to understand what inappropriate touching means, and the setup involves Cosby-adjacent humour about trust and manipulation. The show returned to Cosby material multiple times in later seasons, with increasingly pointed references that suggested the writers knew more than the general public about what Cosby had been doing behind closed doors for decades. When Cosby was finally arrested in 2015 and convicted in 2018, those old Family Guy clips resurfaced alongside the Spacey and Weinstein clips as part of the broader narrative that Hollywood's dirty secrets had been hiding in plain sight inside a cartoon. MacFarlane himself addressed this pattern directly in an interview where he acknowledged that the entertainment industry operates on whisper networks. Information moves through private conversations, through agents who talk to other agents, through producers who gossip at parties, through writers who hear things from their friends and contacts across the business. The Family Guy writers' room was not some isolated bunker disconnected from the rest of Hollywood. It was a room full of people who were deeply embedded in the industry, who had connections, who heard things, and who processed what they heard through the filter of comedy. This is actually how a lot of industry knowledge has historically been transmitted. Before the Me Too movement, before social media gave victims a platform to speak publicly, the primary way that information about powerful people's bad behaviour moved through Hollywood was through gossip. Whisper networks, off-the-record conversations, stories told at dinner parties with the caveat that you did not hear it from me. And the Family Guy writers' room, by virtue of being staffed by people who were part of that world, became a place where those whispers could be amplified and broadcast to millions of viewers in a form that nobody took seriously. The irony is thick enough to choke on. The show that was dismissed as crude, lowbrow entertainment was actually one of the most effective vehicles for disseminating insider information about Hollywood's most protected secrets. The New York Times and the New Yorker eventually published the investigations that brought down Weinstein and Spacey and Cosby. But Family Guy had been saying the same things years earlier, just in a format that allowed everyone to pretend it was not real. This raises a question that does not have a clean answer. Did the comedy help or hurt? On one hand, you could argue that by turning these allegations into jokes, Family Guy normalized them in a way that made them seem less serious. The jokes gave the audience permission to acknowledge the rumors without acting on them. Ha ha ha, Kevin Spacey likes basements. Ha ha, Harvey Weinstein is creepy. Ha ha, Bill Cosby does sketchy things. The laughter diffused the tension. It turned potential outrage into entertainment. And the powerful men at the center of those jokes continued to operate freely for years. On the other hand, you could argue that the jokes kept the information alive. That without Family Guy and without MacFarlane's Oscar night comment about Weinstein, some of these whispers might have faded entirely. The jokes created a record, a searchable, shareable, permanent record that could be revisited when the truth finally came out. When Anthony Rapp went public about Spacey, the existence of that 2005 Family Guy clip made it harder for people to claim they had no idea. The joke proved that the information had been circulating for at least 12 years. It was not new. It was not a surprise. It was just something that everyone had been laughing about instead of doing something about. Both of those things are true. The comedy both helped and hurt. It kept the information alive while simultaneously making it less urgent. It informed the public while giving the public an excuse to not care. That duality, that contradiction, is built into the very nature of comedy about serious subjects. A joke can be a weapon and a shield at the same time. It can expose truth and bury it in the same breath. And Family Guy, more than any other show in television history, embodies that contradiction. The cultural infrastructure that surrounded the show during its peak amplified everything we have talked about. The Parents Television Council, a conservative media watchdog group, made Family Guy its favourite target. They named the show the worst programme on television over 40 times across its run. They pressured advertisers. They filed complaints with the FCC. They published reports and press releases and opinion pieces arguing that the show was damaging to children, to families, to public morality, and to common decency. And it did not matter at all. The PTC's campaigns against Family Guy actually helped the show. The publicity generated by their complaints drew attention to episodes that might otherwise have gone unnoticed. Viewers who might never have watched the show tuned in specifically because they had heard that the PTC was upset about something. The outrage machine and the comedy machine fed each other. The more the PTC complained, the more famous the show became. The more famous the show became, the more the PTC complained. It was a cycle that benefited both parties. The PTC got to be outraged, and Family Guy got to be notorious, while accomplishing nothing in terms of actually changing the show's behaviour. This cycle of outrage and reward is a microcosm of the larger dynamic that has sustained Family Guy's celebrity destruction for 25 years. Every attempt to stop the show, whether through lawsuits, political pressure, watchdog campaigns, or cultural criticism, has ended up making the show stronger. The machine does not just survive opposition, it feeds on it. Controversy is oxygen for Family Guy. It is what keeps the show relevant in an era when its actual viewership has declined by 96%. The show does not need 22 million viewers anymore. It needs clips that go viral, moments that generate headlines, and controversies that drive people to stream old episodes. And celebrity destruction is the most reliable way to generate all three. To understand how Family Guy was allowed to do what it did for over 25 years, you need to understand that there was not one single thing protecting the show. There were four separate shields, each operating independently but reinforcing the others, that together created a fortress around the show's ability to mock, parody, and in some cases genuinely harm real celebrities without facing meaningful consequences. These four shields are the reason the lawsuits failed. The political firestorms faded, the international bans were shrugged off, and the show kept running season after season, renewal after renewal, long after many people thought it should have stopped. The first shield is the legal shield, and it is the most important one, because without it, none of the others would matter. The United States has some of the strongest free speech protections in the world. The First Amendment to the Constitution guarantees the right to free expression, and the courts have consistently interpreted that right very broadly when it comes to comedy, satire, and parody. The landmark case in this area is Hustler magazine versus Jerry Falwell from 1988. In that case, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously that public figures cannot recover damages for emotional distress caused by a parody or satire of them, even if the parody is outrageous, offensive, and clearly intended to cause harm. The court said that in a free society, the price of protecting speech is that some speech will be hurtful, and public figures, by virtue of having entered the public arena, have to accept a higher level of scrutiny and mockery than private citizens. This ruling is the bedrock of everything Family Guy does when it comes to celebrities. Every cutaway gag that mocks a real person, every joke about a celebrity's body or disability or personal life, every crude and vulgar depiction of a public figure exists under the umbrella of Hustler versus Falwell. The Supreme Court said you can do this, and nobody has been able to argue otherwise since. The specific cases involving Family Guy reinforced this protection even further. When Carol Burnett sued over the charwoman scene in the adult store, Judge Pregerson dismissed the case under the First Amendment. When the Bourne Company sued over the I Need a Jew parody, Judge Batts ruled that the song was protected fair use. Each time a plaintiff took the show to court, the court said the same thing. This is parody. This is satire. This is protected. Case dismissed. Animation adds an extra layer of protection that is often overlooked. Courts have consistently treated animated depictions of real people differently from realistic portrayals. A photorealistic deepfake of a celebrity doing something they never did might raise legal concerns about false light or defamation. But a crude cartoon drawing of that same celebrity doing the same thing is much more likely to be treated as obvious parody. The argument is that no reasonable viewer would confuse a Family Guy cutaway with reality. The medium itself signals that what you're watching is not real, which makes it harder to argue that the content is defamatory. Family Guy's legal team, first at Fox and later at Disney after the acquisition, understood all of this. They built a system. Every episode goes through a standards and practices review before it airs. The legal department evaluates every celebrity reference, every real name mentioned, every potential claim against a real person. Rich Appel explained that the standard is straightforward. Either there has to be some published basis for the joke, meaning a newspaper article, a reported rumour, or a public statement, or the joke has to be so outrageous and absurd that no reasonable person would take it as a statement of fact. And in many cases, both conditions are met simultaneously. This system means that by the time a celebrity gag makes it to air, it has already been cleared by lawyers who are specifically trained to evaluate the legal risk. The show does not operate recklessly, it operates with precision, pushing right up to the edge of what the law allows and never crossing it. The result is a show that appears to be fearless and unrestrained, but is actually operating within a carefully defined legal framework that protects it from consequences. The fearlessness is real, but it is a fearlessness that is underwritten by an army of attorneys who know exactly how far is too far. The second shield is the corporate shield, and this one is about money. Family Guy is cheap to produce compared to live-action television. There are no elaborate sets to build and maintain. There are no large casts of on-screen actors requiring salaries and benefits and trailers. The voice actors record their lines in a booth, often completing an entire episode's worth of dialogue in a few hours. The animation is produced overseas, where labour costs are significantly lower than in the United States. The entire production pipeline is lean and efficient in a way that most television shows simply are not. On the revenue side, Family Guy is a machine. The show generates income from multiple streams simultaneously. New episodes air on Fox, generating advertising revenue. Reruns air on Adult Swim, Comedy Central, FXX, and other cable networks, each paying licensing fees. The entire series streams on Hulu, where it is consistently one of the most watched catalogue titles. Merchandise, including t-shirts, toys, video games, and countless other branded products, generates additional revenue year after year, and the show's global distribution through platforms like Disney Plus in international markets extends the revenue pipeline across borders. All of this means that Family Guy is profitable even if nobody watches the new episodes. The show has built such a massive library of content over 25 years that the back catalogue alone generates enough revenue to justify the show's continued existence. New episodes are almost a bonus at this point. They keep the brand alive, they generate some attention, and they add to the library that will continue to generate revenue for decades to come. This financial reality has a direct impact on the show's approach to celebrity mockery. Controversy, as the old saying goes, sells. When Sarah Palin went on Fox News and called the show's creators cruel and cold-hearted, that generated more press coverage for Family Guy than any marketing campaign could have bought. When the Kevin Spacey clip resurfaced in 2017, millions of people went back and watched the episode, driving streaming numbers and advertising revenue. When Chloe Grace Moretz's story made headlines in 2022, people who had never seen the original episode went and found it online. Every controversy drives attention, and attention drives revenue. The corporate owners of the show, first Fox and then Disney, have always understood this equation. The risk of a celebrity lawsuit that would be thrown out of court was always smaller than the reward of the attention that the controversy generated. The math always worked in the show's favour, and that is why in April 2025, Disney announced that Family Guy had been renewed for 4 more seasons in what was described as a mega deal. The renewal would take the show through season 27 and the 2028 to 2029 television season, coinciding with the show's 30th anniversary. Each season would consist of 15 episodes. The show was not just surviving, it was being locked in for years into the future, regardless of whether the creative quality justified it, because the business math still worked. The third shield is the cultural shield, and this one is about timing. Family Guy hit its peak during a very specific cultural moment. The 2000s and early 2000s were the era of TMZ, Perez Hilton, reality television, celebrity roast culture, and the collective agreement that famous people were fair targets for public ridicule. This was before the Me Too movement. This was before the broader cultural conversation about punching down versus punching up. This was before people started thinking seriously about the real-world consequences of online mockery. In that cultural moment, going after celebrities was not just acceptable, it was celebrated. Roast shows on Comedy Central drew massive audiences. Gossip blogs became some of the most visited websites on the internet. Tabloid culture was at its peak, and Family Guy was riding that wave. The show did not create the culture, that made celebrity destruction acceptable. It reflected that culture back at the audience in animated form. The show gave people what they already wanted, which was to see famous, powerful, privileged people get knocked down a few pegs. South Park was doing similar things during the same period. Late-night talk shows were built around celebrity mockery. Tabloid magazines existed for no other purpose than to scrutinize and ridicule the lives of famous people. Family Guy was part of a larger ecosystem of celebrity destruction, and within that ecosystem, it was just one player among many. The difference was that Family Guy's cutaway format made it faster, more frequent, and more permanent than any of its competitors. The cultural winds have shifted since then. The rise of what some people call cancel culture, combined with the Me Too movement and growing awareness of the real harm that online harassment can cause, has made audiences more uncomfortable with certain kinds of humour. People are more likely to ask who is being hurt by a joke. People are more likely to question whether a punchline is punching up at power or punching down at vulnerability. The show has adjusted to some degree. The extreme abuse of Meg Griffin softened after more women joined the writing staff around season 14 and 15. Some of the cruder disability-based humour has been toned down, but the fundamental engine of celebrity mockery is still running, because the show's identity is built on it, and removing it would leave very little behind. The fourth shield is the creator shield, and this one is about Seth MacFarlane himself. MacFarlane is not just the creator of Family Guy, he is one of the most publicly charming, intellectually engaging, and culturally respected figures in the entertainment industry. He hosted the Academy Awards in 2013. He performs big band and jazz standards at venues like Carnegie Hall. He has released multiple albums. He is politically progressive, vocally supportive of social causes, and known for his intelligence and his sense of humour. This personal brand gave Family Guy a kind of protective coating that shielded it from the worst criticism. When people accused the show of being cruel or offensive, MacFarlane's public persona made it harder for those accusations to stick. This was not some anonymous hack writing mean jokes in a dark room. This was Seth MacFarlane, the charming, liberal, Oscar-hosting, big band singing, Star Trek-loving polymath. He was too likeable, too accomplished, and too obviously smart for people to write him off as just a bully who hid behind a cartoon. But here is where the story takes a critical turn. Around 2011, MacFarlane began stepping back from active creative involvement in Family Guy. He continued to voice his characters, Peter, Brian, Stewie, Quagmire, and several others, which kept him in the recording booth for every episode. But the writing, the story planning, and the day-to-day creative decisions were increasingly handed off to showrunners Rich Appel and Alex Sulkin. MacFarlane had other things to do. He wrote and directed the movie Ted in 2012, which earned over $500 million worldwide. He created The Orville, a science fiction series that premiered on Fox in 2017. He signed a massive deal with NBC Universal, reportedly worth around $200 million over 5 years, moving his production company away from the Fox ecosystem entirely. MacFarlane was building his future elsewhere, and Family Guy was the thing keeping him tethered to a network he increasingly did not want to be associated with. He posted publicly on social media that Fox News host Tucker Carlson's commentary made him wish Family Guy was on any other network. He compared his relationship with Fox to a failing marriage. The creator of one of Fox's longest-running shows was publicly saying he wanted out. This created a strange situation. The man whose personal charm had always softened the show's rougher edges was no longer in the room shaping those edges. The showrunners who replaced him were experienced professionals who knew the show well, but they did not carry MacFarlane's public reputation. They did not have his celebrity connections. They did not have his instinct for knowing when a joke was crossing the line from funny to harmful. Without MacFarlane actively steering the ship, The show drifted further into territory that he might have pulled it back from if he had been paying closer attention. When you put all four shields together, the legal protection, the corporate profit motive, the cultural acceptance, and the creator's personal brand, you get a machine that was almost impossible to stop. The law said it was allowed. The corporation said it was profitable. The culture said it was funny. And the creator said it was art. Four walls around a single show, each one reinforcing the others, each one making the machine harder to challenge. And the machine kept running. Through lawsuits and political firestorms, and international bans, and real human suffering. Through declining ratings that took the show from 22 million viewers in 1999 to less than 1 million by season 23. Through a creative decline that saw the characters hollowed out and the humour shift from clever satire to blunt shock value. Through all of it, the machine kept running because nothing in the system was designed to stop it. The legal system protects this kind of speech by design. The corporate system rewards this kind of content by incentive. The cultural system normalizes this kind of humour by repetition. And the creator system insulates the person responsible by reputation. Family Guy was not just allowed to destroy celebrities, it was encouraged to do so by every system it operated within. The courts gave it immunity, Fox and Disney gave it money, the audience gave it attention, and McFarlane gave it credibility. Four shields, each one unbreakable on its own, and together forming a barrier that no celebrity, no politician, no government, and no critic has ever been able to penetrate. And so the show continues, season after season, cutaway after cutaway, celebrity after celebrity. The machine runs because nobody designed an off switch, and maybe that is the most important thing to understand about this entire story. Family Guy was not a rogue operation that snuck past the gatekeepers. It was a show that the gatekeepers themselves protected, funded, and celebrated. The question is not really how Family Guy got away with it. The question is what it says about us that we built a world where this was exactly what success looked like. So where does that leave us? We have spent the better part of this video tracing the arc of a single animated television show from its creation to its current status as one of the longest running series in American broadcast history. We have looked at the comedy engine that made celebrity destruction possible. We have met the celebrities who played along and the ones who fought back. We have sat with the stories of people who suffered real, lasting harm. We've explored the eerie phenomenon of a cartoon that seemed to know things before the rest of the world caught on, and we have examined the four shields that protected the show from consequences for over 25 years. But the story is not complete without looking at where all of this has led. Because Family Guy in 2025 is not the same show it was in 2005. The world around it has changed. The people making it have changed. The audience watching it has changed. And the consequences of what the show has done over the past quarter century are still unfolding in ways that nobody fully anticipated. Let us start with the numbers, because the numbers tell a story of their own. When Family Guy premiered on January 31st, 1999, that post-Super Bowl episode drew roughly 22 million viewers. 22 million people sitting in front of their televisions, watching a brand new animated show for the first time. At its peak during the revival era, from 2005 through 2012 or so, the show regularly pulled in 8 to 12 million viewers per episode. Those were strong numbers. Numbers that justified the show's existence on a broadcast network. Numbers that gave the writers the freedom to do whatever they wanted, because the audience was there to support it. By season 23, the average viewership had dropped to around 723,000. Let me say that again, 723,000. From 22 million to less than 1 million. That is a decline of over 96%. The show that once commanded the attention of a significant portion of the American television audience was now being watched by fewer people than some moderately successful podcasts. The cultural moment that had elevated Family Guy to phenomenon status had passed. The audience had moved on, and yet the show was still on the air, renewed through season 27, locked in through 2029. This tells you everything you need to know about the corporate shield we discussed earlier. Family Guy does not survive because it is culturally relevant anymore. It survives because the business model still works. The back catalogue generates revenue. The streaming numbers are stable. The brand recognition is enormous. And 15 episodes per season is a modest enough commitment that the cost never outweighs the return. The show has become a utility at this point, quietly generating income in the background while the cultural conversation has moved on to other things. But the creative trajectory of the show has mirrored that ratings decline in ways that matter for the celebrity destruction story. Because the show that exists today is not operating at the level of the show that existed during its peak. The writing is thinner, the characters are less defined. The cutaway gags, which were once the show's greatest weapon, have become repetitive in a way that even the show itself has acknowledged through meta-commentary. Family Guy has actually developed a habit of commenting on its own tendencies. There are episodes where characters acknowledge that the show recycles jokes. There are moments where the fourth wall breaks and someone points out that a bit has gone on too long or that a celebrity gag is cheap. This self-awareness has become a running theme in the later seasons, and it creates an interesting tension. The show knows what it is doing. The writers know that the celebrity mockery has become formulaic. They know that the cutaway gags have lost their edge, and they comment on that knowledge within the show itself. But awareness is not the same as change. Pointing out that you're doing something does not mean you've stopped doing it. Family Guy's meta-commentary about its own celebrity destruction is not an evolution. It is a defense mechanism. It is the show inoculating itself against criticism by acknowledging the criticism before anyone else can make it. We know we recycle celebrity jokes. We know the cutaways are cheap. We know we have been doing this for too long. But look, we are being honest about it. So does that not earn us some credit? It does not. Not really. Because the celebrity destruction continues alongside the self-awareness. The show still makes jokes about real people's bodies, disabilities, and personal tragedies. It still creates permanent, searchable, shareable content that will follow its targets around the internet for years. The fact that the show sometimes winks at the audience while doing it does not change what is being done. It just makes the show seem clever about it. There is an interesting comparison to be made here with American Dad, the other animated series that Seth MacFarlane co-created. American Dad premiered in 2005, the same year that Family Guy returned from cancellation. It features a similar animation style, a similar sense of humour, and a similar willingness to push boundaries. But American Dad took a fundamentally different approach to comedy. It relies on character-driven storytelling rather than cutaway gags. It builds its humour around the relationships between its main characters rather than around references to real-world celebrities. And it has been running for over 20 seasons with a loyal audience and consistent critical respect without ever becoming known as a celebrity destruction machine. American Dad proves that MacFarlane's creative DNA does not require celebrity mockery to succeed. A show with his sensibility, his voice acting, and his comedic instincts can thrive for decades without turning real people into punchlines. The fact that Family Guy chose to build itself around celebrity mockery was exactly that. A choice, not a necessity, not an inevitability. A creative decision that was made early in the show's life and reinforced by the feedback loop of audience response, internet virality, and corporate incentive until it became the show's defining characteristic. The treatment of Meg Griffin is worth mentioning here because it mirrors the show's approach to celebrities in an interesting way. For the first dozen or so seasons, the abuse of Meg was one of the show's most reliable running gags. The family ignores her, insults her, physically harms her, and treats her as essentially worthless. Meg absorbs all of this abuse without meaningful consequence. She is the show's internal punching bag, in the same way that celebrities are its external ones. But around season 14 and 15, something shifted. More women joined the writing staff. The abuse of Meg softened, not dramatically, not overnight, but noticeably. The show seemed to recognise, at least to some degree, that the relentless cruelty toward its only significant female character was becoming uncomfortable, rather than funny. Episodes began to give Meg small moments of dignity, small moments of pushback, small acknowledgements that she was a person with feelings rather than just a target. This evolution, limited as it was, suggests that the show is capable of change when the people in the room care enough to push for it. The question is whether that same capacity for change will ever be applied to the celebrity destruction engine. So far, the answer appears to be no. The show has softened on Meg. It has toned down some of the more extreme disability humour. But the fundamental approach to celebrities remains unchanged. Real people are still used as props. Real names are still dropped into cutaways for cheap laughs. Real bodies and real conditions are still treated as comedy material. There is something else worth sitting with as we think about the show's legacy, and that is the spectrum of impact that the celebrity destruction has had. On one end of that spectrum, you have Adam West, a man whose career was fading, who found new life and new love from a younger generation through his willingness to let a cartoon make fun of him. West's story is genuinely beautiful. Family Guy gave him something that nothing else could have given him at that stage of his life. Relevance, joy, a connection to an audience that adored him. When he passed away, the tributes from Family Guy fans were overwhelming. His voice, his timing, his willingness to be ridiculous, those things became part of his legacy in a way that enriched rather than diminished who he was. On the other end of that spectrum, you have Chloe Grace Moretz, a young woman who did nothing to attract the show's attention, who was not parodied or referenced or targeted by name, but who was collateral damage nonetheless. A cartoon character that was not about her became the template for a meme that was about her, and that meme changed her relationship with her own body and her own public life in ways she described as devastating. The show did not intend to hurt her. The writers probably have no idea what happened, but the damage was real, and it was lasting, and it was caused by content that the show created. Between those two extremes, Adam West and Chloe Grace Moretz, there is every other celebrity who has been touched by Family Guy's comedy machine over the past 25 years. Some of them barely noticed. Some of them became punchlines for a week and then moved on. Some of them, like Marlee Matlin, found a way to turn the mockery to their advantage. And some of them, like Michael J. Fox, had aspects of their lives that they cannot control turned into recurring comedy material that will exist on the internet for as long as the internet exists. The legacy of Family Guy as a celebrity destruction machine is not a simple story of good or evil. It is not a story where the show is entirely wrong and the celebrities are entirely right. It is a complicated, messy human story about what happens when comedy intersects with real life in a medium that preserves everything permanently. The jokes that work, and there are many of them, work because they are genuinely funny and because the audience enjoys seeing powerful people deflated. The jokes that do not work, and there are many of those too, do not work because they target things that people cannot control and create suffering that outlasts the laughter. If we are being honest, the show's approach to celebrities reflects something about us as much as it reflects something about the show. Family Guy did not create the appetite for celebrity mockery. It fed an appetite that already existed. The show gave us what we wanted, which was to see famous, glamorous, untouchable people brought down to our level. To see their flaws exposed. To see their carefully managed images torn apart. To laugh at the idea that being famous does not protect you from being ridiculous. We wanted that. We tuned in for it. We shared the clips. We built the memes. We turned the cutaway gags into viral content, and the viral content into cultural artifacts. Family Guy was the machine, but we were the fuel. Without the audience, without the viewers, without the people clicking play on YouTube and sharing the links and arguing about the jokes in comment sections, the machine would have had nothing to run on. The Parents' Television Council named Family Guy the worst show on television over 40 times. 40 separate occasions where a media watchdog group singled out this specific cartoon as the worst thing on the air. And it made absolutely no difference. The show kept getting renewed, the audience kept watching, the clips kept going viral. The PTC's complaints were treated as badges of honour by the show's fans, who saw the outrage as proof that Family Guy was doing something right. And maybe it was, in a certain light. Maybe there is something valuable about a show that refuses to treat anyone as sacred, that refuses to respect the boundaries that publicists and agents and lawyers try to draw around famous people, that insists on treating celebrities as human beings with the same flaws, the same absurdities and the same vulnerabilities as everyone else. There is an argument to be made that Family Guy's relentless mockery is a form of equality. Nobody is above ridicule. Nobody is protected. Everyone gets the same treatment. But equality of mockery is not the same as justice. Mocking a powerful Hollywood executive who is secretly harassing women is not the same as mocking a young actress for her body proportions. Mocking a politician's hypocrisy is not the same as mocking a man's progressive neurological disease. The show treats all celebrities the same, but all celebrities are not in the same position. Some of them have the power and the resources to absorb the mockery without consequence. Others do not. And the show has never shown much interest in making that distinction. When the show eventually ends, and it will end, even if that day is still years away, the question that historians of television and popular culture will ask is simple. Was Family Guy a mirror or a hammer? Did it reflect celebrity culture back at us and help us see it more clearly? Or did it just smash things because smashing things got a reaction? The honest answer is probably both. It was a mirror that showed us what we looked like when we laughed at famous people's pain, and it was a hammer that did not care what it broke as long as the breaking was entertaining. Seth MacFarlane himself seems to have a complicated relationship with this question. He is a man who created one of the most successful comedy franchises in television history, and then slowly, quietly, tried to build a career that had nothing to do with it. The Orville, his science fiction series, is not a show about destroying people. It is a show about exploring the universe with empathy, curiosity, and a gentle sense of humour. His music career, his big band albums, and his performances at Carnegie Hall is about celebrating artistry and craft. His film career, from Ted to A Million Ways to Die in the West, uses crude humour, certainly, but it does not rely on the systematic targeting of real individuals the way Family Guy does. There is a version of Seth MacFarlane that clearly wants to be remembered for more than the show that made him famous. And there is a version of Family Guy that continues to exist whether MacFarlane wants it to or not, because the contracts are signed, the renewals are locked in, and the machine does not need his permission to keep running. He voices the characters, he lends his name, but the show has become something bigger and older and more autonomous than any single person's creative vision. This is what happens when a television show runs for 25 years. It stops being a show and starts being an institution. Institutions have their own momentum. They have their own logic. They serve their own interests. And the interests of Family Guy as an institution are not the same as the interests of Seth MacFarlane as a human being, or the interests of the celebrities being targeted, or the interests of the audience that has largely moved on to other things. The institution serves itself. It renews itself. It perpetuates itself. And the celebrity destruction is part of its identity now, as much as Peter's laugh or Stewie's accent or Brian's martini. If you have stayed with me this long, I want to sit with one more idea before we wrap this up. And it is an idea that I think is worth turning over in your mind as you drift off. Family Guy was allowed to do what it did because of a series of agreements. Not formal agreements, not contracts, but agreements in the sense that multiple parties, the courts, the corporations, the culture, and the audience all independently decided that this was acceptable. The courts agreed that parody was protected speech. The corporations agreed that controversy was profitable content. The culture agreed that celebrities were valid targets. And the audience agreed, through the act of watching and sharing and clicking play, that this was entertainment worth consuming. Each of those agreements made sense in isolation. Free speech should be protected. Profitable shows should be renewed. Comedy should be allowed to push boundaries. Audiences should be free to watch what they enjoy. None of those individual positions are unreasonable. But when you stack them on top of each other, when you combine all four of those reasonable positions into a single system, the system produces outcomes that are harder to feel comfortable with. It produces a world where a cartoon can cause a young woman to develop body dysmorphia and nobody's responsible. A world where a man's degenerative disease can be turned into a recurring joke and nobody has the authority to say, stop. A world where warnings about predators are disguised as punchlines, and the punchlines give everyone permission to laugh instead of act. The system works exactly as designed. That is the uncomfortable part. Nobody failed. Nobody made a mistake. The courts did their job. The corporations did their job. The culture did its job. The audience did its job. And the result is 25 years of a television show that brought joy to millions of people and genuine suffering to some of the people it targeted. Both of those things are true at the same time, and neither one cancels out the other. I think the reason Family Guy's celebrity destruction has always been so difficult to discuss honestly is that most people's relationship with the show is personal. If you grew up watching it, if you laughed at the cutaway gags, if you shared the clips with friends, if you quote Peter Griffin in casual conversation, then the idea that the show might have caused real harm to real people is uncomfortable. It feels like an accusation directed at you, not just at the show. Because if the show was wrong, then maybe you were wrong for laughing. And nobody wants to feel wrong about something that brought them genuine joy. But here is the thing. You are not wrong for laughing. Laughter is involuntary. Comedy works on a neurological level that has nothing to do with morality. A joke is funny or it is not, and your brain makes that determination in a fraction of a second without consulting your conscience first. The wine-spilling gag with Michael J. Fox can be simultaneously funny as a piece of comedy writing and cruel as a piece of social commentary. Those two things can coexist in the same moment. You can laugh at a joke and also recognize that the joke causes harm. Those are not contradictory positions. They are just honest ones. What matters is not whether you laughed. What matters is what you do with the understanding of what the laughter meant. If you understand that Family Guy's celebrity mockery exists on a spectrum from harmless fun to genuine cruelty, and if you can hold that understanding without needing to collapse it into a simple narrative of good or evil, then you are engaging with the show more thoughtfully than the show has ever engaged with its own targets. The celebrities who were mocked by Family Guy did not have the luxury of nuance. Chloe Grace Moretz could not experience the meme of her body as a theoretical discussion about the ethics of parody. She experienced it as a daily assault on her self-image. Michael J. Fox could not experience the Parkinson's jokes as an academic debate about the limits of comedy. He experienced them as a public reminder that his disease was funny to millions of people. The people at the receiving end of these jokes live with them in a way that the rest of us do not. For us, it is content. For them, it is their life. That asymmetry is at the heart of this entire story. The show creates content. The audience consumes content. The celebrities live with the consequences of that content. And the gap between creating, consuming, and living with is enormous. It is the gap that allows the machine to keep running, because the people who make the decisions, the writers, the executives, the audience, are never the people who bear the costs. Family Guy was allowed to destroy every celebrity because we built a world where the people making the decisions were insulated from the people paying the price. The writers go home after a long day in the room. The executives look at the revenue reports, the audience clicks to the next video, and somewhere a young actress sits in her apartment, afraid to go outside because a cartoon character that was not even about her became a meme about her body that she cannot escape. That is the story of Family Guy and celebrity destruction. It is a story about comedy and cruelty, about free speech and its consequences, about corporations and their incentives, about culture and its blind spots, and about an audience that wanted to laugh, and a machine that was happy to give them something to laugh at. The show will keep running. The cutaways will keep cutting. The celebrities will keep being referenced, mocked, parodied, and in some cases harmed. And the four shields will keep holding, because none of them were designed to fail, and none of them have a reason to. If there is a final thought to carry with you tonight, it is this. The question was never really how Family Guy was allowed to destroy every celebrity. That question has a clear and specific answer. The law allowed it, the money encouraged it, the culture accepted it, and the audience demanded it. The real question, the one that does not have an easy answer, is what it means that all of those systems, all of those reasonable positions, all of those individual decisions added up to a world where this was possible, where a cartoon could run for a quarter century doing real damage to real people, and the only response from the systems designed to govern these things was to renew it for 4 more seasons. Family Guy did not operate outside the rules, it operated inside them. Every lawsuit was won, every renewal was earned, every clip was voluntarily shared. The show did exactly what the system allowed it to do. And that is maybe the most unsettling thing about this entire story. The machine works, it always worked, and it will keep working until someone somewhere decides that the rules need to be different. Whether that day ever comes, I honestly cannot tell you, but what I can tell you is that 25 years of evidence suggests it is not coming soon. The show is renewed through 2029. The back catalogue will generate revenue for decades after that. The clips will live on YouTube and Hulu and whatever platforms come next for as long as the internet exists. And the celebrities who are targeted, the willing ones and the unwilling ones, the ones who laughed and the ones who cried, the ones who sued and the ones who suffered in silence, will carry the show's jokes with them for the rest of their lives. That is the price of being famous in a world that has Family Guy in it. And it is a price that nobody agreed to pay, but everyone ended up paying anyway. The machine runs, the shields hold, and somewhere in Quahog, Rhode Island, a fat man in a white shirt is about to say something that starts with, "This is worse than the time I," and ends with a real person's name. It has been that way for 25 years, and it does not look like it is going to stop. The lights in Quahog never go out, the Griffin family never ages, and the cutaway gags keep coming, one after another, each one a tiny missile aimed at someone who may or may not deserve it. That is the world we built, that is the show we watched, and those are the rules we agreed to, even if we never realised we were agreeing to anything at all. Sleep well.